What is the biggest obstacle or most common obstacle to progressing quickly to jhana when on a 30 or a 45-day retreat? You're really showing your defilements there with that question. So, ironically, probably one of the most common obstacles is wanting it, right? Which is one of these like deep ironies of samsara. So we tend to think that craving will lead us to get what we want. And sometimes craving does lead us to get what we want, but then we realize we want something else. So we tend to think of craving as a way out of suffering. That's going to make me happier. But according to the Buddha, it's the second noble truth, and it's the cause of all suffering. And that goes for our samatha practice as well, and how we approach the jhana. So I also believe the pendulum swing can go too far the other way. And I see this where there are some meditation cultures in which the teachers dare not mention that jhana is possible, because if it's mentioned, maybe you will crave it. I also don't agree with this approach. This is not how we see the Buddha teaching. The Buddha didn't say, well, there's 4 noble truths, but I'm only going to tell you about 3 of them, because if I tell you about the 3rd one, then you might crave it. Or I don't know, I won't tell you about jhana because we don't want to talk about it, you might crave it. What we see in the way that the Buddha frames the teachings is he tells us what's possible, and he trusts us to have the psychological, the emotional maturity to understand there are things I have not yet attained that would be great to attain, and the way to get there is not through craving. The way to get there is through wholesome states, right? So this is one of our main blocks as our Dharma practice deepens. We're changing that very, very deeply ingrained habit of getting what we want by craving it, and getting what we want by trying very hard. That's not how we attain jhana. We attain jhana through moment by moment putting in wholesome states. Just moment after moment accumulating wholesome states in good relationship with our meditation object. So we need to be humble, patient, content, all of the things that we speak about again and again. Okay? So let's assume that you are a very skillful meditator and you're not approaching the practice with craving. You are humble and content and in good relation with your meditation object. So one of the other things that can hold you back is to not establish yourself in continual practice. And this is a very deep habit, I think, especially in the West, because we've had the Dharma come over mostly in the context of these silent retreats, and then you go home. And so we tend to think of our practice as that which we do on the cushion. But like I've said to you before, if you're meditating in the way that's like stopping and starting, even if the quality of your sitting practice is very strong, you're going to make yourself slow if you get up and forget your object, right? It's like a bad driver who's speeding up to the red light, slamming on the brakes, everything's very jerky. Any of you who have been in the car with a bad driver know it's a very unpleasant experience, but we do that to ourselves in our own meditation if we're all the time stopping and starting. So you have a nice smooth experience of meditation, then you go back to core states, you unbalance your faculties. When you sit down again, you have to do the most unpleasant part of the practice again, settle down again. It's demoralizing, it imbalances your effort, and it wastes time. So I think that's another thing that can slow people down. Not well established in a really nice continual practice, not practicing sense restraint, not being a tortoise. All of the things that we speak about again and again. And then the last one maybe is, well, there's many, but the last one I speak about until I ask you if you've got any further questions, is not balancing the faculties. So this morning we spoke about the controlling faculties, especially faith, wisdom, mindfulness, effort and concentration. And it's great to have those faculties strong, but we really need them to be balanced. And probably the two most common imbalances that we see, though we do see all kinds of imbalance, but the two most common imbalances is too much effort through habit or believing that if we make more effort we'll get there quickly, like we just said, and not enough faith. And so in the practice, our faith isn't balanced with our wisdom. We're doing too much analysis, we're trying to be too clever, we're believing that if we can just see things in the right way, maybe we can solve a problem and get a quicker result. And it's not balanced with our faith, which allows us to just do this really simple thing. Just know each breath. Just relax and surrender and trust that the result will come. That's what the Buddha told us to do. All we've got to do is do it, right? And what allows that surrender and patience is enough faith. So this is another very common imbalance that we see, people being a bit too clever for their own good in mindfulness of breathing practice. It's very simple practice. The instructions are very simple. Know your breath. Very simple. But we like to overcomplicate it. Any other questions on why you're not all attaining jhana on every 30-day retreat? Or is it clear?